Yes, guys, and welcome to the Leeds vs Sunderland match preview in a game that is, I don't think too many people or too many Sunderland fans would be able to argue with me if I did say or suggest that this is going to be the biggest game of the season, or at least the biggest test up until this point. I think, I don't want to blow too much smoke up their arse, but I think Leeds away this season is the big one on a lot of teams' fixture lists in terms of difficulty at least. Leeds top of the league at the moment. They're absolutely flying. They haven't lost in months in the league. And they're just brushing teams aside at the minute, beating teams 4-0, 7-0, most games 2-3-0, and they're not conceding much either. So we go there with a huge level of difficulty in mind. But anyway, I'm going to get into the preview in just a moment. But first and foremost, housekeeping. If you can hit the like button for me, it'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe if you are new. There's so many of you guys still, and I've been saying it for the last month or so, there's so many of you guys that are watching the videos regularly, hopefully enjoying, but you're not yet subscribed. Please do. It is so, so appreciated. If anything, it puts a smile on my face, particularly when we're going into games like this where there's a pretty high chance we're going to get absolutely paggered. Do you know what I mean? I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully not. I'm not going to go into this preview just totally bending over for Leeds because it's not going to happen. Hopefully. But yeah, going into it, of course, as I've just alluded to, Leeds are in a fine run of form, and at any point they can just flick the switch. And like for like, I don't think there's going to be much we can do. If they come at their absolute best, there's very little most sides in this league can do about it. But I do have a great belief in our squad, and I do believe that if we do play to our best and maybe get a bit of a look at the draw as well, which I think you need a bit of, a rub of the green. I think we could come away with something or even 3 points. But again, we need to be at our absolute best. And team selection, strategy and systems and formation, lineup, of course, it needs to be bang on with this with this game. Because like I say, Leeds are flying at the minute. You make one or two bad choices in terms of selection, or maybe head a certain route in terms of system or the way you want to play. And we are going to get punished, unfortunately. They have absolute talent in abundance, and to the credit of Leeds, the team they've built there, and the squad they've built, they managed to keep a lot of players as well. Of course, they lost a few at the beginning of the season after coming down, but they've replaced absolutely fantastically. And they can almost lose 5 or 6 players to injuries, and they can get almost like for like quality. Pretty much, on one side you got Dan James, you got Solomon, on the other you got Peru, who we've got here on the screen. I put him there because I'm a great admirer of his. Of course, I don't want him to do well on Monday, but he's just a fantastic all-round striker for me. He's got 14 goals and 6 or 7 assists or whatever it is. For a big lad as well, he's very technically gifted. He's very good with his feet, but he's a big brute as well, very strong. He uses his frame very well, and we definitely need to handle that, as well as, like I said, Solomon on one side, very creative. Dan James is rapid on the other side, and if they wanted to change it up, they absolutely could do with Notto coming off the bench, amongst a plethora of other players. You've got Aronson in there. But I do think if we play to the best of our abilities, we absolutely can test this Leeds side. But it depends what we do and and the way we play and who we select. And it is that we do have a massive headache. I tried to do my team selection of my preferred 11 for this game, and I really struggled, given that we've got Mundell back now. He's been in full training, full contact training for a little bit now, and he is apparently available. Will he start against Leeds? I personally don't think so. I think he'll probably come off the bench at some point, maybe the final 20, 15 minutes or something like that. However, I do think that he might have a card or a trick up his sleeve, Regis. I think he might, just to shock him, start Mundell on that left-hand side and put Lefay in his real position. And if he did that, I would be buzzing. It would be a risk because Mundell, I know some people might just expect Mundell to be, go back from where or start the way he left off, before he got injured. We need to remember he hasn't played for quite a few months now with his injury. And he hasn't had football, or he hasn't had some first-team football or proper football under his belt in a long time. So it's going to take him a handful of games. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did change things around now that he's back. And I think at least at some point in that game, and Lefay as well, to be fair, I could say a similar sort of ish argument. He hasn't played much football in his actual position in a long time. He's been playing on the left-hand side, and granted, he's been outstanding on that left side, and it isn't his real position. He plays as an 8 or as a 10. So in one of those roles where a Job or a Rig plays, that's where Lefay naturally should be playing, and he hasn't been playing there. So if we just chucked him back in his normal position, I don't know. Of course, he's a class player. He's a class above this league, Lefay. But I'd still give him a little bit of leeway if we did stick him in the middle and he maybe wasn't exactly what we're expecting because he hasn't been there in a while. But yeah, it's a good headache to have. It's a nice headache to have. So I'm trying to think I'm trying to get into Regis Labree's head. Is he going to be thinking, right, okay, so you've got Peru up top, you've got the pace on the wing on each side, so maybe stick with Sirkin on one side to try and cover Dan James. You could run him ragged easily, or maybe 09 with the physicality to hit Dan James, put him out wide. Of course, Hume on the right-hand side, and they want the physicality of maybe a Dan Ballard to deal with the likes of Peru and Mepham as well. So I don't know whether, of course, Sirkin's a lot quicker than 09, and I made this argument in the last preview. Maybe he would like to shuffle 09 out wide, because I think 09 for me is untouchable at the minute with how well he's playing and how invaluable he is to this squad. But again, Dan Ballard, he didn't really put too much of a foot wrong against Luton, albeit it was against one of the worst sides in the league this season. We had a clean sheet, which we hadn't had for a little bit, and he did all right. But Mepham, the experience of Mepham to put him up against someone like a Joel Peru, it's one of them. Who do you start? For me, I think he might bring Mepham back into the lineup just to try and deal with him, and I think 09 and Mepham will probably double up on Peru. But I don't know. Like I said, it's a real nice problem to have. But up against a side like Leeds, is it really that nice? But yeah, I also have a feeling, and it'll probably piss a lot of people off, and it's probably the right game to do it. He might change the system in that usually we have an anchor, and then two players a bit further forward in the middle. I think he might play with a two holding, maybe a Dan Neil and a Samed as well. Which, I don't know, I think that might ask for it. He might try and flood the middle by putting maybe a flat three of like a Samed, Neil and Job in the middle, which I wouldn't be totally against, or at least I don't understand, but I think that absolutely would anchor his back. It maybe put a leash on a couple of players there. But again, I'd sort of understand it, trying to crowd out that midfield and try and gain control of the game. But yes, anyway, so I'm going to give you my sort of preferred 11, or at least an 11 I would like to see at least some point in the game. Do you know what I mean? So this isn't a predicted, this isn't necessarily a preferred that I think is going to happen from the off, but this is what I would like to see at some point, and this I think would be ideal. And probably our best team at the moment, if I'm going to just be totally honest. Patterson there, Sirkin 09, Mepham, Hume, Neil as the holding player, the anchor, Bellingham and Lefay in his actual position. Roberts on the right hand side, which could easily be swapped with Mayenda, and Mundle on the left hand side, and Isidore up top. Now, of course, Mayenda for me, if anything, he's losing sharpness, Mayenda now, because for some reason, although he's got the stats to point in the direction of Mayenda, and he's been fantastic, he's still he's finding himself rooted to the bench, and he's getting sort of 5-10 minutes here and there, maybe 15, and it can't be good for him when he just looks so direct and promising, and he's so rapid and quick. And I think if we're going to ask questions of these fullbacks that are quick themselves, the lead fullback, we've got Firpo on one side as well, Bogle on the other, you need that pace to ask questions. So we might see Mayenda from the start to try and ask questions, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. But this is the sort of team I'd like to see at least at some point in the game. Also, one thing I mentioned Poveda. Apparently, he hadn't picked up a knock, and that wasn't the reason he wasn't involved in the last game. Apparently, it was disciplinary issues. There's reports Regis did say there was an internal matter, but it has been heavily suggested that he was late for a meeting or late for the coach or whatever it was, which is frustrating because for me, I don't want to dig him out or start a witch hunt on the bloke, but for someone who is almost exclusively on the injury list, you think he'd be absolutely busting a gut to make a good impression. But if he's got issues with attitude or maybe turning up late, then, you can piss off, do you know what I mean? And I know that could happen to anyone. Anyone can be late. Anyone could have a shit day. I get that. But we haven't heard from any other player or about any other player ever this season having internal issues. And that's why they haven't been played, or that's why they dropped to the bench or haven't been in the squad. Do you know what I mean? So it's just put your ideas up, mate, because it's not like you've been pulling up trees when you come on the pitch. If anything, you look relatively shit. So just put your ideas up, because we know that there's a player in Poveda. So, just get your head together and, let's crack on and let's try and do the business. Not going to get at him too much, but it pisses me off shit like that. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on to my predictions for the game. My head is genuinely saying, and I don't want to blow smoke up the arse, but I am seeing a 2-0 Leeds win. However, I think if we do somehow manage to sneak a goal early doors, I can just see Leeds just bombarding us, trying to get that equaliser and us just putting everyone behind the ball and actually defending for our lives, getting that rub of the green, maybe hitting the post and stuff like that, and things and clearances and bubbles that are landing in our favour to get the ball away. I can see us maybe getting away with a 1-0 win, but I am going to predict a 2-0 Leeds win. I think that's what my head says. I'm going to go with my head. Obviously, I don't want it to be. But if we do manage to get 3 points or a point here, it would be an incredible result, not just because of we're playing Leeds, but, Leeds take on Sheffield United next. Then they've got West Brom after that. They've got some massive games. The top three, they need to play each other. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, we're 5 points off this, we're a few points off that. I get it, but it can really change. Leeds can lose, however unlikely it might be. They can lose a couple of games, we can win a couple. Sheffield United can lose a couple, we can win a couple. And we're clear at second place, you know what I mean? It can change so quickly, and I just don't want to down tools just yet. Of course, it's going to look shit if we do get beat against Leeds. It's going to look shit, I get it, but the season isn't over, and Leeds are a very good side. I'm almost trying to urge people not to lose a shit if we lose, but I know full well that I'm going to lose my shit if we lose, because it does feel like a massive, massive game, and it is. But anyway, that'll be it, guys. That's my preview. Let me know in the comments down below what you think is going to happen. What team would you go with? Let me know. And, of course, hit the like button for me if you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. But for now, take care. Stay jammy. How are the lads? Keep the faith. Come on!